Hello everyone, I am Shivam Banka and welcome to this new video of management case study interview. The purpose of this video is to give you an understanding of how case study interview goes and what is expected of you. This video is divided into two parts. In the first part, we'll be going through the interview and analyze it as we go along. In the second part, we'll look at the interview as a whole and figure out how the interview was at an overall level. Today we are doing case study interview, which is a market entry interview. And in this, our client is an electric bus company. For context, all the black text with blue background you see is the statement of the interviewer, and all the blue text with white background you see the statement of the interviewee, the candidate. The client is an international manufacturer of electric buses and has a substantial presence in the European market. The client is impressed by the initiatives taken by the government of India to promote the usage of electric vehicles. You have been hired to find out the client if the client should introduce these buses in India. Okay, so the first statement told by the interviewer is one of the most important because it tells you the what is the scope of this interview. So we know it's a market entry interview. So in a market entry interview, in the first part of the interview, you try to analyze or understand what is the client's objective and goals for doing so. In the second part, then you start analyzing and figure out where how relevant it is for for the client to enter in this market. The analysis is in terms of either what is the return on capital the client can earn, and what is the feasibility or operational feasibility for the client to launch this product in this market. And in the third part, you provide your final recommendations and suggestions. So we are in the first part where we'll try to understand more of the client's business or client's objective. Okay, so let's underline the first statement, the important parts, because it's important you don't miss out on any points because you're going to use everything in analyzing the case. So, you know, the client is an international manufacturer of electric buses and has a substantial presence in the European market. Okay, the client is impressed by initiatives taken by Government of India to promote electric vehicles, and you have been hired to find out, my bad, find out if the client should introduce these buses in India. Okay, I would like to confirm if I have understood all the critical aspects of the client's situation. A client is an electric bus manufacturer who has substantial presence in other markets. Uh, so I am assuming that their buses are beyond the technical feasibility stage and are compliant with the stringent European environmental law. Okay, the buses doesn't need much of technical help to be launched in India since they are um, quite a big player in European market. We need to see if the products can be feasibly launched in India and evaluate the market characteristics to analyze if this would be a great move. Okay, so we have to understand the feasibility of launching it in India uh, and figure out if it's a good thing to do. That's correct. The client does not face any regulatory barriers in India, which is one of the major points whenever a foreign player wants to enter a new market. Regulatory barriers have to be analyzed. You cannot skip this point. You have understood the situation well. How do you propose going about the solution? Since this is a new market, a new product in a new market, I would like to structure the discussion around the product characteristics, development, and customization for Indian market. If the introduction of product is feasible, I'll move to the launch, competition challenges, distribution promotions, uh, part of the case. So since it's a new product in a new market, we'll move into production characteristics for Indian market, and then we'll move into feasibility aspect. Okay, then we'll move into feasibility aspects of the launch, which is challenge, which is the major, which is the standard competition challenges, distribution and promotion value chain. That sounds fine to me. To start with, you can tell me something more about these electric buses. How are they different from the traditional fuel-based buses? So now we have moved on, we have understood the client's objective, and we are moving to the second part of the interview where we are trying to analyze the situation for the client. You can start, uh, you can tell, to start with, can you tell me something about these electric buses? How are they different from the traditional fuel-based buses? Okay, pretty basic question. And it's also very important that if you don't know about a particular category which you are analyzing, you can ask the interviewer directly. Just remember that the interviewer is there to help you out if you're stuck. So be very vocal about if not understanding rather than assuming something of your own. Okay, so yeah, so you have to understand how the electric bus is different from the traditional fuel buses. There are quite a lot of differences between these buses, but to help you out, I'll point out a few major ones. The major difference is that these buses produce less than 90% greenhouse gas as compared to traditional buses. These buses also run on electric batteries, which means that these buses can run 150 to 200 kilometers in one charge. That is good. It gives us advantage to position our product as an environment friendly alternative that can be used for an extended period of time. I would also like to understand how has our client uh, priced these buses in their existing market. They're selling these buses at approximately 1.6 times the price of the fuel-based buses. However, due to the presence of heavy environmental taxes, many companies prefer to buy these buses in long run. Okay, they might that might be a problem for us since these are short to medium distance buses. They would be used mostly for intra-city travel, and private public bus operators won't accept a more costly option until they don't have a similar incentive. That's pretty fair for Indian market. That's a fair point. Assume that the government is providing a 5-year tax holiday to companies investing in an electric vehicle industry and would give special tax breaks to private operators who would promote environment friendly buses. So, um, this is a good point that the interviewer is helping out, but a better thing if the candidate would have focused in the initial part of the interview, which said that the government is providing incentives to promote electric buses, rather than coming to a conclusion that the bus operator will not uh, use or prefer this option since it's costly. The candidate could have asked that what are the incentives the government is offering to make it attractive, so that the interview knows that you're paying attention to what is being told, and he doesn't have to help you out if you're going in wrong directions. But in this case, the interview told directly that let's assume that the government is providing a tax incentive that reduces the cost. Okay, this means that the major target customer, both in public and private sectors, are uh, receptive to the product. Uh, okay. Can you also tell me if there is an existing EV bus operator in India? No, the client would be the first company. Okay, yeah, first company to introduce such buses. That does play for and against us. It is good for us since we would have the first movers advantage. Okay, I think so. There is an issue with the highlighting always this side, so I'll just highlight it. Movers advantage and will be able to capture more market. Uh, but it might play against us because the infrastructure required to support these buses may not be present and awareness of EV buses might be low. Can you also tell me what is their target regions or cities in India? Assume that the company will initially operate only within Ahmedabad and has the capital and resources for this. Given this information, can you suggest some company and market specific strength and possible problems that the company might face? So they're operating only in Ahmedabad. They have the funds and resources for this. But we have to figure out what is the market specific strength and problem the company might face. for launching in Ahmedabad, even if they have all the resources and capital. So at this point, you do a SWOT analysis for this particular situation, uh, which is pretty specific, which is not done here, but that is what the interviewer is asking to do a SWOT analysis at this point. To summarize, uh, and then I think just to save time, they have done a SWOT analysis and then presented a summary so that we don't have to go through the entire detail for this particular case. To summarize, the company has the requisite experience to manufacture and customize these buses, and the environment friendly policies of the government, uh, and the associated financial incentive are a good reason to expand into India. The growing urbanization in India and the large population that uses public transportation. So you have urbanization, people moving to urban cities, and large population using public transport is also justify the need for the product that can meet demand without compromising the environment. However, there is a certain major problems barrier as well. Oil is currently at its lowest price over the decades, which may make it difficult to convince operators to switch to these electric buses. Also, the high price of the buses uh, versus the lack of charging infrastructure and operation and operability for short distance before being put to charge again are some other problems that the company might face. One other major problem that I foresee is that tenders in the public sector are often offered to the lowest bidder, and if the client can't match the prices of the competitors, then won't get business from the public sector companies operating in transport sector. Okay. Okay. Uh-huh. Okay, that sounds like a detailed analysis. Based on this, what is your recommendation? My final recommendation would be not to introduce these buses in India since current industry landscape and market conditions are not favorable for such a move. However, in the near future, once the government policies become more supportive and the market conditions change in favor of EVs, the companies may reconsider this position and enter on entering the market. So that was the case where uh, just remember that the conclusion is the least important part of the case. In a case study interview, the interviewer is judging whether you can reason with your analysis and you have substantial arguments to back your uh, sayings. So that is where the candidate did it pretty well. He was able to look at an overall scenario at different aspects and then provide a recommendation at the end. So let's move on to the second part where we'll analyze the interview of how the candidate did. Okay, so there is SWOT analysis which the candidate did, and we'll go through it right now. Uh, yes. So it's very important to maintain very clear and crisp notes, especially the framework, because at the end of the interview, the interviewer will ask for your notes, and you should be able to understand everything in one go to know that you are thinking in a very structured manner. Interview notes. Customers, target customers may be receptive of the electric buses due to financial incentives promised by government. Competitors, there are no direct competitors. First movers advantage, but that means proper infrastructure to support this bus is also missing. Industry, lowest prices of oil in and over a decade. Tenders often offered to lowest bidders in public transportation industry. Some of the case facts were client is a manufacturer of electric buses and has substantial presence in Europe. Product is beyond technical feasibility stage. These buses produce less than 90% greenhouse gases and compared to traditional buses. Uh, Buses run 150 to 200 kilometers in one charge, and client is currently selling these buses at approximately 1.6 times. So all important points, but yeah, it's everything has been discussed in the interview. Uh, yeah, so keep a note of all the points which the interviewer is mentioning as you go along, because you might forget it when you're analyzing it. So it's very important that even if you don't write full sentences, you write one statement which makes you remind of what the client is and who the client is. So let's say if we have to highlight important lines to write, um, so target customer is receptive of electric buses due to financial incentives promised by government. Um, no direct competitors. Uh, proper infrastructure. Proper infrastructure missing. First movers advantage. Industry is lowest price of oil over a decade and offered to lowest bidder in public transportation industry. So you can recall what the interviewer said if you just write the key points. The approach which a market entry approach looks like is in the first part you analyze the client's objective and you understand this situation for the client and then you provide suggestions. In the first part, you understand the vision why the company wanted to launch. In the second part, there are four parts where you first of all understand the customer, understand the product, understand the company, and then understand the industry. And customer, usually first segment the customer into different parts, but since it's a bus company, majority of middle class people will be using it. So you understand what are the needs, uh, what are their profiles, and then you figure out how what is their growth potential. That's what the candidate is in this interview. In the product, you understand what are the customer expectations, what are the available product out there, which was none at the moment. We had the first mover's advantage, and then you identify the gaps and then figure out if you can fill this gap. In company, the candidate figure out that they have the resources and technology, capital, labor to launch this product in Ahmedabad to begin with, and then they did a SWOT analysis, figure out their strength and strategic assets to launch this. In industry, you see what are the competitors and share, which was none at the moment. You also did SWOT analysis to understand the industry as a whole. Okay, and then you understand what is the barriers to entry exit, which in this case was very minimal or non-existent, since the government doesn't have any extra regulations for the new product. Yeah. So in company, you also understand what are the strategic assets and what are the strengths the company has, which gives them advantage over other companies. Which point I missed. Um, uh, in entering strategy, the client is simply recommended it's not beneficial for launching at this moment and can be reconsidered further. But if it had told that they need to launch, then he also need to provide a little bit of how and what would be the best way for the company to launch in this new segment. Let's see what is a SWOT analysis done by the candidate. Okay. So, yeah, so SWOT, first of all, SWOT is strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. In strength, the strength with the company has, okay, was first of all technical expertise and first movers advantage for the company, saving on fossil fuel costs and less pollution, and government policies were there in our client's favor. Weakness was lack of charging infrastructure, high price of electric buses, and short medium distances only, which is the limitation of electric buses. The opportunities is large population using public transportation, increased urbanization and acceptance of EV buses, and BRTS infrastructure, which supports or which have very well defined bus stops and stations for any bus operator to operate. Threats are foreign and domestic players which can enter the market, growth of other public transportation solutions, and global crude oil prices at all times. So that are good threat options. So after doing the SWOT analysis, the candidate provided suggestions. Recommendations is the client should not enter the electric bus market. While the government has introduced various incentives to promote buses, the current business environment and market conditions uh, does not support entering into India. In the near future, once the government policies become more supportive and market conditions change to favor the EC, uh, the company may reconsider its position on entering the market. So what are the key learnings we can get while analyzing the interview of how the candidate had performed is understand while evaluating the market, you should also look at its drivers, positives and negatives, which the interview did, looked at both the sides. Try to probe which specific geography company is looking to enter within India. Two, a company can look into particular city or combination of cities. So it's very important that you don't start analyzing pan India launch to begin with. You also focus on where the company's objective is and what the company is planning to do, and then you analyze that particular segment, or that particular city, of how well it is to start from that city and how well it is for the company to launch in that city. So I hope you guys learned a lot from this interview. If you're looking to build a career in consulting, to subscribe to the channel. I'll be covering different genres of case study and different examples of different industries in those genres. So you'll get an idea of how to navigate different industries and how to navigate different types of case study. So that whatever case study is thrown at you, you have some idea of that industry and know how to navigate through it. Most of the times you'll see the infrastructure of uh, the case study remains the same, just the industry changes. So once you understand that, it becomes easy for you to proceed with case studies and not worry about which industries or which case study will be asked to you. With that, I would like to wish you a very nice day and thank you for watching.